Almighty and everlasting Father, we come at this morning, Lord, giving you thanks and praises for all your goodness. You watched over every individual during the past night, and you brought us safely here obviously day. By your presence, that you will be with every participant. May everybody be able to give up their best. May you open our hearts and our minds so that you will be able to deliver with clarity, confident, what is our intended statement for the day. We pray, Lord, that where the individuals who are a little bit afraid or worried or stressed, that you would comfort so that they may be able to give up their best. We thank you for this opportunity that these young minds can be used as they will most likely be a part of the future of this our fair land of Barbados. May they become very good citizens. May none of them become a failure, but we pray for their success in everything. And may you keep us in good health for Christ's sake. We ask and pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Madam Speaker, as this is our first debate since the passing of Senior Youth Commissioner with responsibility for the Barbados National Youth Parliament, at this time I ask that the honourable members of this House stand as we take a moment of silence to recognize his contribution to the Youth Parliament over the years. Mr. O'Brien Smith.
At this time, please stand for a 1-minute silence in honor of the life and contributions of Mr. O'Brien.
firearm-related incidents, as highlighted in the report, Crime and Human Trafficking Across Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. And whereas there has been an increase in unemployment following the recent pandemic, leaving many young people with limited financial opportunities, and, in some cases, leading them toward illegal activities, such as drug trafficking, to secure income, thus affecting community stability. And whereas the presence of privately made firearms, including 3D printed firearms, conversion devices, and receivers, poses an emerging threat within the Caribbean, as noted by Urena and Florence 2023, and may contribute to an environment where unregulated weaponry becomes more accessible. And whereas incidents of violence among youth, both within schools and the wider community, appear to be on the rise, indicating the need for preventative measures that focus on youth safety and mental health. And whereas the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, has highlighted the importance of accurate data for effective crime prevention, noting that a lack of well-documented research may undermine efforts to combat crime sustainably. And whereas background checks for firearm purchases have been associated with reductions in access to firearms by individuals with violent or criminal histories in other contexts, and may be beneficial within Barbados. And whereas the introduction of red flag laws, which allow the temporary removal of firearms from individuals deemed at risk to themselves or others, has been considered in various countries, though concerns remain about the potential impact on civil liberties and privacy. And whereas recidivism remains a significant issue impacting youth and communities in Barbados, contributing to ongoing cycles of crime and violence, with a 53% recidivism rate as reported by the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit. And whereas effective reintegration of formerly incarcerated individuals is crucial in reducing recidivism and fostering community safety. Be it resolved that the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training considers the possibility of requiring student participation in extracurricular activities, recognizing the potential positive impact of student well-being, academic performance, and community engagement, as highlighted by research, while allowing flexibility for individual circumstances. Be it further resolved that the Ministry of Youth, Sport, and Community Empowerment, in partnership with the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Labor, Social Security, and Third Sector, as for the development of a youth engagement program focused on skills development, employment opportunities, community involvement, and youth-led initiatives, while assessing resource availability and community needs. Be it further resolved that the Government of Barbados review the feasibility of implementing background checks for firearm purchases, considering the potential benefits in administrative and privacy, in restricting firearm access to individuals with violent histories, while also weighing the administrative and privacy implications of such measures. Be it further resolved that the Government of Barbados consider studying the potential effects of red flag laws, which could allow for the temporary removal of firearms from individuals assessed to be a risk to themselves or others, while ensuring that any measures respect civil liberties and community values. Be it further resolved that a system for issuing permits to individuals or businesses that wish to import or use 3D printers capable of manufacturing firearm components be explored, or that software tracking requirements for such printers be considered, while evaluating possible economic and privacy implications. Be it further resolved that the Ministry of Home Affairs, Information and Public Affairs examine the potential benefits of expanding community policing efforts, fostering collaboration between law enforcement and communities to rebuild trust and support effective policing, and assess the resource implications of such an initiative. Be it further resolved that the Government of Barbados explore funding avenues for research into the root causes of violence, ensuring that policies are informed by current data on the social, economic, and psychological contributors to crime and violence in Barbados, while being mindful of budgetary constraints. Be it further resolved that the Government of Barbados prioritize the further development of comprehensive for individuals released from the correctional facilities, addressing mental health, job training, housing, community support, and data-driven evaluation to reduce recidivism rates and enhance public safety. Be it further resolved that the Ministry of Education prioritize school safety by implementing peer support programs, installing adequate fencing to deter unauthorized access, and deploying CCTV cameras to monitor activities and deter crime. Be it further resolved that the Ministry of Home Affairs, in collaboration with the Prison Service, prioritize the reduction of recidivism rates by mandating the enrollment of all prisoners in rehabilitation programs offered by the Prison Service, and establishing mentorship programs that pair incarcerated individuals with ex-convicts to provide guidance and support upon release.
I now recognize Leader of
Good morning, Madam Speaker, and thank you for acknowledging me. Good morning to the honorable members as well as great attendance. Crime and violence a problem in Barbados. We are debating the topic, right? Answer. It is easy to find examples of violent incidences, whether it be the homicides in the schools, as well as the school fights, but the homicides occurring outside of the schools. It is also easy to find examples of criminal activity, whether it be robbery, vandalism, the recent cybersecurity threats, as well as the chicken shortages, which it isn't criminal activity, but it is an injustice given the time of the year. But to get back to the question at hand, is crime and violence a problem in Barbados? When we look at the data, according to the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit, within the past decade, the number of homicides that has been recorded has more than doubled. Moving from 21 in 2014 to over 48 in 2024 in November, and the year has not yet ended. In addition to that, this same institution would have conducted a public opinion survey looking at how Barbadians view crime in Barbados, and 39% believe that they are in fear of being shot. In addition to that, an additional 37% believe that crime now is worse than it has been in the past. Therefore, when we look at the news article headlines, when we look at what the data says, it is easy to conclude that crime and violence is a problem in Barbados. And while that conclusion does have some merit, it is actually an oversimplification, because crime and violence is not just a problem in Barbados. It is important to understand that it is a solution. Yes, it is a solution that destroys individuals. Yes, it is a solution that destroys communities and families. But it is important to understand that there is a subsection of our society that views crime and violence as a solution and their only option. When we look at violence within schools, when we look at violent incidences involving young men, many of these events stem from the lack or the poor conflict resolution skills. And it is based upon that realization that leads into the second be it resolved clause within the resolution. And what we are specifically proposing here is to have a youth engagement program placed within schools. And exactly what this youth engagement program would consist of is that it would be centered around having conflict resolution skills. Because by equipping the young persons with the necessary critical thinking skills, as well as problem-solving abilities, we would be assisting them in managing conflict peacefully. Now, in terms of research, in the Journal of Applied Psychology, there is a research article posted by two well-known psychology professors, and their names are Durlach and Westberg. And essentially what they were looking at is the impact of conflict resolution skills on youth violence. And what they found is that while the results were not immediate, it was shown that after some period of time, by giving these young persons the necessary conflict resolution, they showed increased levels of aggression as well as aggression. So of communication and empathy. And lastly, there was a small but still notable increase in terms of their academic performance. So with the conflict resolution skills, it is not just about preventing immediate violence, but with nurturing conflict resolution skills, what we aim to do is to provide a proactive and strategic measure for the future in order to prevent violent incidences from ever occurring. Therefore, it is by having these conflict resolution skill programs within the school curriculum that we would, one, be experiencing less violent incidences within the schools, and two, the general student population would be displaying a greater level of emotional intelligence. And those two things are key for a well-functioning society. Now, apart from the conflict resolution skills that is mentioned within the second Be It Resolved clause, another particular area of interest is within the first Be It Resolved clause. And here we are talking about extracurricular activities. To be more specific, what we are saying as a government is that there should be the required participation of extracurricular activities within the schools. Because it is through involvement in activities like this, that students primarily, will be able to experience improved well-being, as well as personal development and community. With extracurricular activities, it is essentially going to be a positive and constructive channel for the energy and emotions of young people, while reducing the amount of energy and emotions that would otherwise be directed to destructive and negative channels such as crime and violence. Earlier in the month of November, there was a press release done by the Attorney General's office. And one of the most alarming statistics I picked up on is that the age of violent offenders is rapidly decreasing. We have persons aged between 11 and 15, before they even leave school, are committing serious crimes, homicides and robberies. Before they even leave school at 16, they are committing robberies. And some of the reasons behind this is due to they being negatively influenced in terms of having the wrong role models, as well as not having the necessary skills to know that that is the wrong path to go down. Therefore, it is what we intend to have with the mandatory extracurricular activities. We will be exposing these individuals to proper role models and proper skills that they could use to combat crime and violence. Now, while statistics and data can paint a picture, by now I must have become an artist. But it's important to include examples, because an example can speak volumes. And one of the most shining examples as to the positive impact of extracurricular activities on youth in Barbados is amongst us right now. And by that, I am referring to the Barbados National Youth Parliament. Because it is through becoming involved in initiatives such as this that we learn life skills as well as the discipline that is needed to combat crime and violence. We learn teamwork. We also learn and practice articulation at a national level, as you who are watching on TV would pick up on. But what we learn here today is not just essential for the world of work, but what we learn here today is part of the building blocks for a well-functioning society. Therefore, it is by mandating that students become involved in extracurricular activities that we can give them the opportunity to further succeed and avoid a life of crime and violence. And those are the two roots in which the resolution is built upon. Apart from the conflict resolution skills, as well from the mandating of extracurricular activities within the school system, we recognize that there's also the problem of recidivism. Again, when we look at statistics that would have been provided by the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit, 53% of persons who have been incarcerated tend to go back in prison after
you have 1 minute remaining.
After a short period of time, they enter back into the prison system. And one of the things that is necessary to combat this is mentioned within the 3 last sections within the Be It Resolved clause. In addition to that, it is also important that we touch on the security measures that are in place within the school system. Not only do we have to protect the students, but we also need to protect the staff that frequent these areas during the day. And that is why there is mention in the resolution that there needs to be a step up in terms of security measures, which a number of our government members will touch on. But for now, Madam Speaker, as I conclude, it is important to understand that we must work as a team to get this done. This is not my problem. This is not a government problem. This is not opposition or even a Barbados National Youth Parliament problem. But this is a whole of society problem. And with that, Madam Speaker, I am obliged.
I now recognize the Leader of Opposition Business. The Leader of Opposition, Nathan Simpson.
Madam Speaker,
Please compose yourself, Honorable Member.
yes, because murder. Madam Speaker, in 2019, the homicide rate was 17% per 100,000 persons. 2020, the rate was 15% per the same 100,000 persons. 2021, it was 11. 2022, 15. 2023, surprisingly, there were only 9 murders. 19, sorry. And this is November 2023, 2024. And the murders are past the 40 mark. And by the time I sit down, they can kill 2 more or somebody pick me up. But, Madam Speaker, I started there because I wanted us to understand that crime is a serious issue. And there are a number of root causes which actually affects crime, which cause crime that we need to address. And some of these things are emotion, poverty, mental health issues, gang violence, situations in the homes. The resolution speaks to a number of different aspects of how we can address this issue. But the opposition wish to bring another proposal that we think works better for this. So what should be done? First of all, we need to have a plan to fully combat crime and violence. It is good to say, oh, we want to do this in the schools, but what is the plan? What are the strategies we are using to address the root causes of this issue? The investment in resources. While there have been some investment, there's not enough. We have to improve the environment which people live in. You got 10 people living in a 1-bedroom house. How does that help crime? Because I'm telling you, it happened during COVID. Imagine all of you, all of us in here in one house for less than an hour. I can go crazy. So these are some of the real issues that we need to look at, Madam Speaker. We need to address trauma. And why you say that? Because some of this crime leads from underlying issues that persons may have. Everybody didn't grow up in a home that had, as you always had a gold spoon in the mouth. But later on, when I will address one of the issues that we think were pertinent to the resolution. But there was something that shocked me, actually, by criminologist Kim Ramsey, and she would have stated that there's a hot spot for crime. I thought crime was just crime anywhere, you're just going to shoot a man and say anything. But it was stated that in St. Michael's, actually, and communities like the Pine and Black Rock had the most victims of crime. And that's surprising, because many times these are where the programs are. These are where we say we're looking to cater our programs. But that segues into my next point, because youth involvement is important. And I laugh because we have a number of programs, a number of initiatives that work. But we measure success based on the number of persons which join these programs. All of us in here could be here, and none of us benefit from anything that was said in here. Where there needs to be a statistical based evidence presented to us to show, well, these programs are working. There are many homework programs, there are entrepreneurship programs, there are mentorship programs. How do we know they work? Because we have nothing to show they work. But you know what we see on the newspaper by different, I'm tempted to call them the ministry, but I don't think I will. But there are many programs I know in ministry that, this program was a success. Success how? 10 people come and only 5 benefit. And I know that, people say, yes, we have evidence, we have statistics. Where are they? If upon somebody does, how can the public see this information to know that these programs have worked? But I leave that there, because we playing a game with this thing. The leader of government business, that's the same speech he had earlier. So it means he went home and he nothing more affected him. He went home and he wrote down the same speech and read it back over again. But
You're getting out of order.
Pardon me?
You're getting out of order.
The facts are there, but I carry on. One of the major issues that should have been a resolution that is not there, and what surprised me is that because domestic violence is a big issue. And Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister is a woman, the Deputy Speaker is a woman, the last time we checked, you're a woman, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them out there on the government side, Madam Speaker, and none of them had the bravery to say, put it in the resolution. How silly. But, I saw many of them posted for, on the 25th, but it was, the campaign against domestic violence. They pushed that and they parade about it. But none of them put it in the resolution. Waste of people's time. But we're passionate because we only talking about guns, but guns aren't the only thing that happen. There are persons who are beaten every day, who are abused, and we have not looked at these things. I'm disturbed, honestly. I am very disturbed. And there are too many females on the government side that nobody came up with this. It shows the lack of, let me not say the word I was thinking. No, I had another word. It shows the nonchalance, non-carelessness about the government, because if the Prime Minister, when she don't think that domestic violence against women is important, I leave that for her to. But Madam Speaker, we, the opposition, came here today because we joined the fight. The resolution could have done with more there. I mean, wanted to reduce one page and add on another page, so congrats. But we, the opposition, believe that more could have been done to address domestic violence. Madam Speaker, we see all over the world that domestic violence has been a global issue. Domestic violence has...
Honorable member, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Domestic violence has plagued several homes, and I dare say some of us probably inside here know people who have faced this. Due to the fact of my time is, I will let the rest of the opposition obviously go into the other areas that we wish to address. Today, speaking on reducing recidivism, speak to cybercrime, and the other things that we think are important for us as a society to look at. Madam Speaker, with those brief remarks, I am obliged to you.
I now recognize Sarah Holder, Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, good morning. Good morning, honorable members. Madam Speaker, earlier this year, my family had the unfortunate experience of losing a loved one by the bullet because somebody in Barbados took on the duty of God and decided that it was their right to take a life that they did not give. Now my family, like many others, live daily with the repercussions of gun violence. Birthdays will never be the same. Christmas is coming up, but family gatherings will not be the same. Children, their parents without their son. And what angers me the most is that we are yet to get justice. Because suddenly cameras don't work, and who was outside ain't seen nothing, and Miss Pearlie does know everything. All of a sudden, she doesn't know anything. But what this experience has on is, where are we as a country? Where are our morals, where are our values, where are our hearts? That we are willing to turn a blind eye to the many things that perpetuate gun violence. Whether that blind eye is in the port, in the communities, or in our home. But I rest my anger and I rest my emotions aside, and I thought about why. Why would people conveniently become mute? And the conclusion that I came to is that people might not necessarily be heartless, but just fearful. The thing is that Barbados is a small country, and because of that, we have close-knit communities, and therefore information gets around quickly. And the next issue we have is that we have a culture of snitches is get stitches and can't snitch and etc. So these two things breeds an issue with confidentiality. And although we have the Crime Stoppers hotline, there seems to still be some fear of retaliation from citizens, whether that's from the perpetrator or whoever. Citizens seem to be fearful of punishment, and therefore they don't report things that they know is going to happen, or they don't speak out about things that they have. On social media, do the job, somebody getting in. Police saying step back, somebody taking matters into their own hand. Then on the flip side, on Twitter and on Instagram, people saying, and in court too, people saying police brutality, the police did this to me, etc. So there seems to be a loss of respect from both ways. But Madam Speaker, this is why this resolution is calling for the expansion of community policing efforts and the assessment of what resources are really needed to develop initiatives that foster a greater collaboration between law enforcement and citizens. And further, provide avenues where citizens feel comfortable reporting without fear. Because if we are to be a nation of justice and order, our people must be comfortable reporting crimes, and our officers must be equipped and supported to do their jobs effectively. The second point I want to support is the point on treaty guns. Madam Speaker, cited in the resolution is a report done by Urena and Florkin 2023, and it speaks to the growing threat of firearms within the Caribbean. So where years ago, welding guns, they have upgraded it to 3D printing the guns, and that is using a 3D printer to create components of a gun or create functional guns. But the problem that this poses is that unlike traditional guns, 3D guns don't have serial numbers. Because they don't have serial numbers, the problem that it poses is that they are untraceable. And because they're untraceable, it makes it harder for law enforcement to find the origin and when trained to solve crimes. But we have proposed what they call a proactive measure. And the reason that I say that it is proactive is because although we've seen some cases of ghost guns here, they're called ghost guns because they're untraceable. When you will see that our neighboring countries, they have upgraded to having convergent devices. So the 3D printer makes these convergent devices. And what these convergent devices do is that they convert, ain't no much guns, but pistols into high-powered weapons. So the reason that I say that this point in the resolution is preventative is because we don't want to wait till we get to the point of convergent devices. So by having one, the permit system for individuals, and two, the software that can track and monitor what these printers are creating, we are ensuring that the advancement are used responsibly. When I say the advancement, the technology, are used responsibly and not to endanger our lives. Coming home, my final point is on the need for critical research, and I must say that I agree with the opposition leader on this. Because it is my view that we cannot overcome crime or any social issue in this country without research. So while we may think we know the root causes and think we know the solutions, our thoughts and our feelings are not enough. Our research are facts, and facts do not lie. That's why they're called facts. So today, I support the resolution's call for funding research, because if we put our time and if we put our resources into funding the root causes, specifically, I want to support longitudinal research and qualitative research. So that is longitudinal, focus groups, field research, etc. We save in the long run, because then we have policies and initiatives that are rooted in evidence and proven to be effective. So then we don't have to continue the cycle of what the opposition leader was talking about. I coming home about what the opposition leader was talking about in terms of having programs that 100 people show up, and we think that 100 people benefit, but having the research helps us to better able to create programs where we know for sure people have benefited. I am coming home.
Honorable member, your time
I
has
coming
elapsed.
home. I told these honorable members
Honorable member,
in another
your
space,
time.
I wrapping up. Just give me 30
Honorable
seconds. 30 seconds. That in another space, that this topic of violence hits different when it hits home. And they challenge me saying not. But today, the Barbados National Youth Parliament has the privilege of lending our voices to this critical issue. So I encourage the members today to take your contribution seriously, because this issue can hit any of our doorsteps at any time. I'm obliged to you.
I now acknowledge Leader of Opposition Business, Joshua Harris.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was hopeful that in today's sitting I could finally agree with the government on a resolution that they have brought to the floor. But regrettably, I am again forced to oppose their proposals as they do not address our reality. And Barbados deserves better than this, and the opposition is prepared to deliver it. Now let us begin with their misguided cornerstone out of background checks and red flag laws. Ma'am, these are policies borrowed from countries like the US, where guns are sold legally in stores. No guns are sold legally here, ma'am, yet there is an increase in firearm-related crime. And studies from the UNODC report that up to 80% of firearms used in Caribbean crimes are trafficked in from outside the region. The government's proposal to carry out background checks on persons purchasing firearms is therefore impractical in our circumstances and trivializes the gravity of our crisis. Barbadians expect much better. Ma'am, is this what the public must put up with from that government? My message to them is this: if they wish to be taken seriously as leaders, they first need to get serious on substance. The resolution's failure to properly address the economic drivers of crime is equally alarming. Crime costs the Caribbean an estimated 3.7% of GDP annually, according to the IDB. And yet, this resolution says nothing about poverty alleviation, nor does it suggest a plan for unemployment reduction. Here are the facts. According to the ILO, Barbados' youth unemployment rate stands at a staggering 19.5%. Our research from the IDB consistently shows that unemployed youth, are 3 times more likely to engage in criminal activity. And instead of addressing the crisis, they now propose mandatory extracurricular activities as if an after-school program is going to cure the despair of joblessness. We propose further targeted training and job creation in industries like renewable energy and technology to empower our youth to not only make them prepared for a 21st century world, but to prepare them to lead it. Madam Speaker, it is imperative that we free Barbados from the bondage that is crime. And yet they come here on the 29th day of November, one day before independence celebration, a moment that signifies Barbadian liberation, and makes it crystal clear that they do not know how to free Barbados from the shackles of crime. Further, ma'am, they suggested that more studies need to be done, and that's a waste of money. Research shows what works, and if they would simply keep abreast with what is effective in the region, they would know that we need not waste more money foolishly. In Jamaica, ma'am, community interventions such as violence interruption programs reduce crime, by about 33% in targeted areas according to the UNODC. And we need to embrace a comprehensive plan to implement these proven strategies that engage at-risk youth and uplift our communities. What Barbados needs is a strategy for the investment in and expansion of community-based programs and the expansion and diversification of our economy to create jobs, solutions that would address the root causes of crime and would prepare our youth for a 21st century world. Furthermore, organized crime remains one of the gravest threats to our safety. Studies from the Organized Crime Index and UNODC prove that gangs in Barbados maintain territorial control and engage in criminal activity such as homicides and drug trafficking. But does this resolution propose robust anti-gang legislation? No. Again, does this resolution suggest targeting the financial networks of these criminal syndicates? Again, no. Instead, the government offers more data collection on problems we already understand. Barbados doesn't need more studies, ma'am. We need bold action. The stakes are too high for their incompetence. We need stronger borders with relation to our ports of entry to intercept the illegal firearms being trafficked in. We need anti-gang laws that strike at the heart of organized crime. We need further training, targeted training, and job creation in innovative industries such as renewable energy and technology to empower our youth and, once again, make them equipped for the 21st century world and prepare them to lead it. And we need to close the staffing gap in the Barbados Police Service that's short of staff by about 300 officers. And to do that, I suggest providing further incentives for persons who wish to serve their country in this regard. Ma'am, these measures will deliver tangible, transformative results. In closing, though, ma'am, I firmly believe that we can address our challenge with crime by tailoring to our context solutions that have already been effective in our region. We must face this epidemic with character and courage. And one path this opposition here will never choose is that path of surrender or submission. Yet it is clear that that government has already given up. Barbados deserves real policies, real leadership, and real solutions. Not this government that fixates on background checks for guns that aren't even legally sold here. And with that, ma'am, I'm much obliged to you.
I now recognize Honorable Member on the government side, Janica King.
Barbadians, honorable members, good morning. I stand before this honorable host to speak to you about this resolution. This resolution which has been written by young persons who have all been affected by crime, classmate, whether it's been the boyfriend down the road, whether it's been a family member, whether it's just been a friend of a friend. We all know persons who have been victims of not just by the gun, but robberies, assaults, the opposition, domestic violence. I urge the members of this House not to speak as opposition and as government, but to speak as young persons who have all been affected by crime. Madam Speaker, nearly half the reports in Barbados have involved firearms. This should never happen. That should be the last thing that I should hear. There was a survey that was conducted by the International Journal of Criminology. And they did surveys among the small islands, right? And the respondents from Barbados, 40% of those teachers were victims in school violence. 40% of them witnessed incidents in schools. And 50% of those teachers said that there is, and this is a quote, so I'm going to read. 50% of the teachers who responded from Barbados were of the view that the negative implications resulting from school violence, such as school dropouts and teacher migration. This is terrible because of children who don't have any kind of violence or who don't have any kind of anger resolution, or they don't have conflict resolutions. They don't have conflict resolution and they're fighting. That's their first response. When they go home and they tell their uncle, oh, this boy troubling me, the influence is, well, you ain't cuff you wrong here. But we are saying we are going to put them in extracurricular activities that are going to be mandatory. We're going to expose them to conflict resolution. We're going to expose these young persons to good role models to look up to. We're not going to leave them to the people in the community who don't really care about them, who just want money from them. We're going to teach these persons skills so that when they leave school, they can get jobs. And I'm not talking about being a lawyer. I'm talking about being able to repair things. When you pick burst 16, 17 down the road, because he learned a skill, he could come and repair it for you. He get a little money. Instead of pointing a gun at somebody that own a shop, robbing, killing for stupid money, we're going to teach these young persons skills that they can apply, skills that they can put on resumes and get jobs and feed families and feed parents who looked after them, instead of parents having to go to court and listen to their children commit crimes. There were two 17-year-olds who died. I'm 17. I can't imagine my life being taken because somebody killed me. I can't imagine my friends dying at 17, but this is the reality in Barbados. This is the society that we have, and it's our responsibility as government members and opposition members to both try to come together and find a resolution.
Honorable member, you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you. In closing, In closing, the sole aim of this resolution is to lower the crime rate that has been ever soaring. There have been 48 murders in Barbados for this year so far. We need to I really hope that December will come and it will not rise anymore. In 2023, there were 20 murders. What's happened? What is it so bad that we have increased almost doubling and the year is not finished? Madam Speaker, in closing, I hope that everyone here will speak earnestly and keep those victims who died, the young ones, the old ones, from the 70-year-old to the 56-year-old man who died. Keep them all in mind and speak truthfully and earnestly. I oblige.
Madam Speaker, I would ask that at this point in time, we pause this session for a 15-minute recess.
The question is that this honorable house be recessed for 15 minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. It appears the ayes have it. This honorable house is now in recess for 15 minutes and will resume at 11:45 a.m.
Yeah, he's going next.
Parliament is back in session. I now recognize the honorable member on the opposition side, Jaden Thorpe.
Hi. Morning. Not like that. Pleasant good morning to Madam Speaker, and a pleasant good morning to the honorable members. Within the Caribbean region, Barbados is a little island, and we still have hope. Although we may not be the biggest nation, or we may not be the smallest nation, we still work with one another. This topic is on violence and crime. Violence can stem from many circumstances, but I strongly believe most. I strongly believe most violence within the country stems from our mock culture, influence, and lack of education in family and lifestyle. Let me explain. If you see a young man walking strange on the road, the first thing that may come to mind is that something happened that wasn't right. That is not right. The agenda is that men have to act a specific way in order to be seen as masculine. And what the government is trying to do is prevent crime and violence. But the goal is not to prevent crime and violence. The goal is to decrease it. Now, one of the things that was said on the government side and within the resolution was to run background checks. But how could you run background checks on organized crime if you guys don't even understand or claim you can't understand or know where the guns are coming from? It doesn't make any sense. So another point that was raised is having extracurricular activities within the schools. But I'm pretty sure that when you guys are at work, you guys are not at work 24/7. So when the kids in the extracurricular activities know what's gonna happen when they leave the activities, right? You can't look to prevent violence in schools and in youth if the kids or the youth as a whole being influenced by what's happening on the outside, right? Because you could raise your child to be a princess or a little prince, but at the end of the day, when they walk into the school, you're not supervising them, you're not seeing what's going on. And especially in secondary, people have this agenda that men have to act like bad boys and girls have to get on a sorry and skin up and do all kind of things, you understand? So you can't expect now that when you're surrounded by these people, coming home and you're having proper conversation, interacting with children, you can't expect to understand what's going on in your child. You understand what I mean? So the government can't really try and prevent children or the youth from being more violent and parent extracurricular activity, especially in a place where people studying money. You understand what I mean? So I would like to say what
Honorable
causes
member,
the
on what point do you rise?
Madam Speaker, I rise on a point of elucidation.
Do you give way to this point?
no.
Please take your seat.
So I would like to raise on a point about what causes of crime and violence. And to me, I believe it's many betrayals that might start from young, which could also be seen as habits, right? Many people want to be young entrepreneurs, but due to their circumstances within their lifestyle or their influences, they have grudge. People putting them down, telling them this can't work because you're in this position, X, Y, Z. Then even if they get to position now and try to elevate themselves, you got people now that come in with envy now, that want to pull you down or shoot you because you ain't gaining a little money. If you talk to a black man right now, the first thing he tell you is he a man named Marco money, but Marco ain't pay yet. Next thing you see Marco held the call. You understand? Can't be like that. Another thing too, a lot of people talking about crime and violence, but a lot of people ain't talking about the background that could also.
Honorable member, you have 1 minute remaining.
That could also stem crime and violence in terms of like single parent households, fathers, and the role that parents may play in the child life. Many women today have mental health issues. Lots of females are giving birth. The fathers are not in their lives. And how can a mother that wants the best for her son, faced with the stereotype that single mothers don't raise children correctly, do what's best for her child? Is she under pressure? The only thing that she could really do is what society has as a standard. That's what's going on in Barbados. They have poor father figures, which poor father figures which lack education in family, life, and realities that we're facing. In Barbados, due to our mock culture, Men are supposed to be portrayed as masculine, rough, and women are supposed to look good and have the best private parts.
Honorable member, your time is up.
No one is teaching women how to be
Honor-
great mothers and
Honorable
how.
member, your time has elapsed.
All right. Thank you.
I now recognize the honorable member on the government side, Abriana Ford.
Good morning, esteemed guests, honorable members, Madam Speaker. History has shown that when we invest in the potential and the passion of the youth, they don't just meet expectations, they exceed them. They redefine them. With that being said, I've taken research according to our Attorney General, and she mentioned that 11 to 15-year-olds are being charged with crimes, just as my honorable member has mentioned. He even mentioned, he even mentioned that even at the early age of 16 years old, fresh out of school, they're being charged with murder, obviously with no guidance. And with that being said, honorable members, I implore you that we have to divert and redirect the attention of the youth to more productive matters. And that is why we as the government put forward this resolution where we want the requirement of the children to participate in extracurricular activities. Extracurricular activities do not just stop at CXC certificates. They do not just stop at schools. They mold young and they mold as well well-rounded individuals so that it can prepare them for the future, for their career. You may even be able to represent your country at a national or even international level. This is the pivotal role that extracurricular activity helps for our children. And in giving them a variety, a plethora of activities, allows them to feel as though they do not have to resort to crime or other things that occupy their attention. This is what will lead me into my second point in mentioning about the prioritization of safety for schools. We have to ask ourselves, how are we to expect to combat the crime and violence in schools if the very institutions in which these children are taught are not even safe? And with that being said, I'd like to focus on the environmental security as well as the personal security. In terms of the environmental security, as a result of the location, it is pivotal that we pay attention to the surroundings of schools. We've heard many schools do not have proper fencing, do not have proper working CCTV cameras, do not have such measures to take in place for the prevention and the safety of their schools. And with that being said, we have to ask ourselves, are our schools safe? But that is why our resolution is putting forward the implementation and the focus of things like these. So the location of school is pivotal. We have to pay attention to their surroundings and the hotspot crime areas as well surrounding these schools, where we've seen some schools are right next to blocks. We've seen that some schools are right next to crime-prone areas. We have to protect our youth because they are the future of our generation and the prosperity for our generation. And according to some reliable government sources, it has mentioned that St. Michael, and as well as our honorable member had mentioned, is a hotspot area. Several of our schools in Barbados are located in St. Michael. There have been instances where persons are able to walk onto school and off without the government or a lot of people knowing. This is not what we want for our children. This is especially what we do not want if parents are aware of that. They would definitely not like to know that some random man or some random woman walked up and kidnapped their child or raped their child at that matter. In addition to that, I would also like to look at the personal security. Personal security for schools allows for the learning of the flow of learning for children. It enhances the academic learning for these persons, where at schools you are expected to have a quiet area. Madam Speaker, you imagine you are a teacher in a classroom. You're doing a listening activity. The students are listening. The classroom is silent. All of a sudden, you
Honorable
hear
member,
bram,
you
bram,
have-
bram, gunshots.
Honorable member, you have 1 minute remaining.
Gunshots all around. This is not the environment that we want for our students. It disrupts the attention for our students. We do not want skeptical students running around and looking over their shoulders because they're in fear of their lives. Parents do not especially want that after schools, without the attention, without the supervision, that their children are unsafe. They would not even entertain the idea of extracurricular activities with this being mentioned. And with that, Madam Speaker, I would implore that we look at these two resolutions that would allow us to combat crime, especially with the implementation of peer support groups, installing adequate fencing to deter unauthorized crimes, and deploying CCTV cameras that is likely to deter crime. And with that, Madam Speaker, I oblige.
Honorable member on the opposition side, Jonisa Griffith.
Madam Speaker, good morning, honorable members. Every morning I wake up, I get up, I spend some time doing my devotions and reflecting. That is not something that I just woke up doing randomly. That is a routine that I have instilled in myself. And that is based off of the influences that I have been exposed to. The same thing goes with violence. You don't wake up a criminal, you don't wake up a delinquent. It is the things that influence you, that you are exposed to, that attribute to these behaviors. According to the National Institution of Health, specific ages such as 12 to 18 is where your mind is most vulnerable. That is why it's important that we find ways to make sure that our youth are protected from these negative influences outside. Yes, I know we're saying that we should do mandatory extracurricular activities, but is that a control setting? There is nothing saying that you cannot be exposed to negative influences, including persons that you do these extracurricular activities with. That is why a great need for investment in trained psychiatrists are needed so that persons get the required help. It's not to say that extracurricular activities are bad, it's a good idea, but it further can be done to help it. There's not to say, okay, say you're doing netball practice. Your netball coach might not be well equipped to help you overcome the situations that you're facing. That is why we need to reach out to more professionals for this help. Great. Continuing on my second point, peer evaluation. Peer evaluation is a good idea as well, but we might not be able to, as younger persons who are the same age, who are also going through our own circumstances, we might not be able to help persons in a well manner. Teachers, we spend 6 hours on average at school for 5 days a week. That's 30 hours. Teachers are at school, they monitor the classrooms, they keep tendencies in persons. There should be a system put in place where you can report these tendencies that you see. That you can anonymously, you don't have to say who the person is or report it out loud to everyone. But you can help a child by just saying, okay, you sense that something may be going through with this child. This child is struggling. This child may be going through abuse, neglect. Teachers should have a system where they can say, I think this child needs extra help. Every child is different. Point A might help the first child. Point B might help the second child. So we should have unique curriculums to help persons who are struggling with different situations. And with that, I oblige.
I now recognize the honorable member on the government side, Renee Holford.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Now I would like to start today by saying that young people are our future. Yes, and I think it is evident that young people are ruining their future and they don't even know. I believe that we should teach children what a police certificate or character is. Now when I say young people are the future, young people need jobs in the future. And most jobs these days are asking for a what? Police certificate of character. Now, when you go and involve yourself at the young ages of 11 to 15 years old in crime and violent activities, when you go to get a job at the age of 16 to 19 or older, it's going to be said, I don't know, because obviously you have that on your record. And I don't believe that these are things that we teach people, because people go to prison to get away from the things that are happening in their neighborhood. It is said that children these days just want to be safe and they're running to prison. Is that how we really want to continue raising our youth? Prison is a place where persons who have committed atrocities are sent, not for young people to go where they have to think that, oh, okay, well, I can get a couple of meals a day, so I can be good here. No, because although you're getting a couple of meals a day, you are also hindering your own process. And I do not believe that these young people these days are thinking about their future, which is why I am here to support number 2 in the Be It Resolved clause, where it says, where we create community involvement, employment opportunities, youth-led initiatives, and youth engagement programs. No, Madam Speaker, 16 to 19 is the age that is said to create the problems. But you know what that also is? That is the transition age from going from secondary school to college, from adulthood, from childhood to adulthood. And these are the children that we need to support, which is why I say that when we create these community engagement opportunities, the opposition leader has said that 10 people come and only 5 persons benefit. But Madam Speaker, you can only put the food there, you can't force it. No, when we go out of our way to make sure that persons are involved in extracurricular activities, it's not to say that they will not be supervised, because there are teachers at schools, there are ancillary staff who go out of their way, although that is not their job, to make sure that the children on the compound are safe. And it is my cause, and I'm a woman, yes? And the opposition leader said that when there are multiple women on the government side, but you know what, Madam Speaker? Women create children, and we are here to say that our children need to feel supported and loved at school, which is why in the Be It Resolved clause, point number 9 states that we will need to include peer programs and also adequate fencing, whereas we keep our children safe. Madam Speaker, I might be yelling at you, but it's just the passion, I apologize. But it's also occurred to me that Barbados used to be the island of the best oceans and the island of the flying fish. But you know what it's called, you know? That the island where it's going to watch your step and duck. Because everywhere you go, you need to. And that is not how we want to continue our Barbados. You understand? Madam Speaker?
Honorable Member, you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, the crime rate in this island is rapidly increasing, and we have to do something about it. This resolution is only the start, Madam Speaker, of multiple different things that we have to start doing, because at the end of the day, if we do not start, nothing can be done. If we do not start, we cannot finish. Madam Speaker, again, real passionate with this one here, because a lot of people have to deal with the atrocities that persons commit, whether it be gun violence, theft. Gun violence happens to, that's somebody's family member. Theft, that's somebody's store, small store that they have to deal with. Listen, Madam Speaker, all we could do is try. Honestly, try. We can start with youth engagement opportunities that will create the employment opportunities.
Honorable
I understand,
Member,
Madam Speaker.
try to wrap up.
Thank
please.
you very much. I just want to finish up by saying we will start with these youth engagement programs that create the employment opportunities.
Honorable Member.
And with that, I oblige to you.
Honorable member on the opposition side, Abigail Brown.
Madam Speaker, today I rise in firm opposition to this resolution, even as I note its recent addition of measures aimed at reducing recidivism. While this addition is a step in the right direction, it remains insufficient of acknowledging and addressing the root causes of crime and violence in Barbados. It is commendable that the resolution now acknowledges the need for rehabilitation programs and mentorship initiatives. These measures lack the depth and practicality needed to effect meaningful change. The Barbados Prison Service already has multiple rehabilitation programs where inmates have opportunities to prepare themselves for their reintegration into society. A quote taken from their website states, "Imprisonment brings with it an obligation of inmate rehabilitation. It is ethically and economically essential due to the high rates of incarceration and the cycle of recidivism. As part of the Barbados Prison Service's rehabilitative program, inmates are provided with the opportunity to participate in vocational and educational programs, which will prepare them for their reintegration into the community." So it's not to say that inmates don't have access to these programs, but they're given the choice whether they want to participate or not. This resolution seeks to make it mandatory that inmates enroll in these programs, however. While I do find the intention behind it noble, I suggest optional counseling instead for inmates and their families. Incarceration takes various tolls on all persons, but at different levels. With counseling, we can evaluate them and see if they even feel the need to better their lives, etc. Then we can discuss placing them in rehabilitative programs. The resolution also mentions establishing mentorship programs that pair incarcerated individuals with ex-convicts to provide guidance and support upon release. I do applaud them on this, as I think it's a great idea, but how many total reforms have sprung from just great ideas? How much research has been put into how productive this innovation is, and will there be a trial period for it? It seems to me that this element was just thrown in at the last minute without any proper consideration given. Speaker, the point I find most unfortunate is that we live in an unfair society. There's a lot of stigma and discrimination surrounding ex-offenders that unfortunately is to the cycle of recidivism. The resolution states, "Be it further resolved that the government of Barbados prioritizes the further development of comprehensive reentry programs for individuals released from correctional facilities addressing mental health, job training, housing, community support, to driven evaluation to reduce recidivism rates and enhance public safety." Again, I find it commendable the government's attempt at addressing recidivism, but after addressing the released inmates' mental states, training them for work, and housing them, can it be said with complete confidence that these individuals will remain to keep their life on track? The resolution completely neglects society's role in rehabilitating ex-offenders. You give these persons job training, but according to stats taken in 2019 by the Criminal Justice Planning and Research Unit, 70% of employers stated that they never employ persons with criminal records. And 50% says that they wouldn't employ anyone who support is another subject that needs to be addressed. When inmates are released, they will need more support than just a single shoulder to cry on. The government needs to highlight the importance of public education to reduce stigma against ex-offenders, because when society ostracizes them, they're just bound to return to the very means that sent them into a life of crime in the first place.
Honorable member, you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, addressing recidivism requires a holistic approach. The resolution scratches merely the surface, but fails to deliver substantial solutions, offering nothing more than a surface-level approach to a deeply rooted issue. For these reasons, I remain opposed. Madam Speaker, I am obliged.
I now recognize the honorable member on the government side, Romar Corbin.
Madam Speaker, honorable members, it's with the greatest honor that I have the opportunity today on behalf of the youth as I am one myself to hopefully bring better awareness to the issue of crime and violence among the youth in Barbados and hopefully provide applicable solutions. Now, in light of the resolution of crime and violence amongst youth, incidents of crime and violence among the youth appear to be on the rise, both in schools and the wider community. We've had cases like a stabbing occurring at a secondary school roughly 2 months ago, and a 17-year-old boy being shot and killed while with his friends in June of this very year. Now, this is greatly indicating or emphasizing the need for preventative measures that focus on youth safety and peaceful resolution. Now, according to the article by youth.gov, and youth.gov is a government-funded operation led primarily by America. And it says that young people surrounded by a variety of opportunities for positive encounters engage in less risky behavior and ultimately show higher rates of successful transitions into adulthood. Also, a comprehensive study examining more than 200 school-based social and emotional learning programs found that participants showed significant improvement in social and emotional skills, attitude, and academic performance, and reduced risky behavior. The Ministry of Sports, Youth, and Community Empowerment partnered with the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Labor, Social Security, and Third Sector as per the development of youth engagement programs focused on skills development, employment opportunity, and youth-led initiatives. Now, also in the article by youth.gov, which I previously mentioned, it said that these programs can aid in preventing a variety of risky behaviors among young people and improve social and emotional outcomes. Programs such as Project Dawn, which is a multifaceted program catering to men and women who live on the blocks, identifying them in areas such as robotics, agriculture, and providing certified skills training. And the Get Hired program and the Pathways Employability program, which are development programs instilling the youth with life skills, soft skills, and giving them work experience, ultimately making them able to go into the world of work. However, Madam Speaker, with regards to delinquents or youth who wish to leave the traditional school system early, or troublesome juvenile youth, I believe that these programs or programs similar should be made mandatory for such at-risk youth. In an article released by Sedona Sky Academy, which ran research on programs, said that these programs show a reduction in recidivism rates and improvement in pro-social behaviors among participants. So with the mandatory action being taken, we'll be taking our youth off of the blocks, out of the criminal lifestyles, and onto a path of greatness and prosperity. But I conclude with this. Matthew 7:24-27 speaks about the wise man who built his house on the rock and the foolish man who built his house on the sand. Madam Speaker, with these programs and stuff, we will be taking the youth out of their sand and onto their solid rock, so that no matter what storm comes their way, their house or their life cannot be washed away. Madam Speaker, I am obliged to you.
Honorable member on the opposition side, Jade Haynes.
And this exposes the truth to me that we are still experimenting. noticed that these murders increase. We notice the unemployment rate go up and down. I hear the government speaking of several youth engagement programs that seek to improve academic performance, community engagement, and overall participation in extracurricular activities. You may be asking yourself, why is this such a bad thing? This is a bad thing because we are focusing on suffocating our youth with more credentials, more qualifications, and more certificates in a society where that does not always matter. Our literacy rate is above the 90s, Madam Speaker. The president of the Barbados Human Resources Association gave us some harsh realities in terms of the unemployment rate in Barbados. Some people leave school with CSCs and have to go and find a job that they may not like or they may not find interest in. Others go as far as the University of the West Indies to complete a bachelor's degree, but then have to go into a completely different field because there are only a handful of jobs. I understand that life is unfair and that sometimes we will have to make hard decisions that will make us uncomfortable. But how will this truly help with the unemployment rate? When we force our youth to go into jobs that they do not particularly value or enjoy, we normally get two outcomes. They are either fired for mediocre performance, or they quit due to a lack of stimulation and appreciation for their job. Is this truly unfair? Is it reasonable for us to call them lazy, unmotivated? How can we throw our youth in the deep end and then the same skills that they spent years allotting they can't use to get out of it? I say all of this to say the youth do not need more opportunities. They need more guarantees. We speak about these children that leave school and after trying once or twice in a program, they end up committing crime. I believe this is because the youth are angry. They're tired. Yes, you can put food there, but you cannot make them eat it. But how do people, in the higher classes, get to eat from the silver spoons and the gold spoons, give the lower classes scraps, and then beg them to eat? Why are we lowering the standards for what these dropouts, these prisoners, or what these children in society in general, because it truly does not matter who gets CSCs versus who don't. Why do we believe that they can only have jobs such as plumbers, constructions, etc.? I understand that some job descriptions you cannot have a criminal record with. But I feel like we are telling our children to go to school, to get a job. They go, they take the programs, as one of the opposition members says. Some of them will go, some benefit, some don't. Some go.
Honorable member, you have 1 minute remaining.
But at the end of the day, most of them come up with the same result. They're put back to square one. So what really have we done for the youth in Barbados? And I know that in the resolution it states that they are looking to implement entrepreneurship programs. I commend this. However, I want us to reflect on the Global Entrepreneurship Monitoring Report that says that Barbados is still facing weaknesses in the entrepreneurial framework conditions as it pertains to limited financing, lack of support from new and growing firms, and inefficient bureaucratic processes. Therefore, entrepreneurship is not a quick fix. And the same way how we want everyone to be their own boss, we want people to be employed. We, as the people of Barbados, we are still searching for employees. We cannot tell
Honorable member, please wrap up.
We cannot tell every child who does not go down the path.
Honorable member, your time has run out. I now recognize the honorable member on the government side, Jadon Wilson.
Good morning, Madam Speaker, honorable members, especially invited guests and judges. it is with a deep sense of responsibility and concern for our nation's future that I come to you today to speak about the issue of crime and violence. The ridiculous surge of crime in recent times has placed Barbados at a point where we can no longer afford for this to happen. And government is compelled to take the necessary measures to ensure that we safeguard our nation, because this has destroyed the very social fabric that binds us together as a nation. Firstly, we would seek to create more vocational and technical programs to foster opportunities for vulnerable youth who may not be able to get through with the traditional CSCs, because everyone will not be able to get through with the core subjects, math and English. So therefore, it is imperative that we create necessary programs to ensure that there are opportunities for these people to still be model citizens and to have an impact in the society. They're also creating opportunities for them to live the lives which the average citizen will live and create their families as well. Also, we would seek to create outreach programs where we would incorporate our social workers who would lend their expertise in creating a bond between them and the vulnerable youth, where they can speak to these youth and find out what is the core issue in these youth. Because much of what is happening in Barbados now is that the youth have no guidance. And if they're lended guidance, a lot of them can be model citizens. So I think that needs to be something that needs to be addressed, and the government is willing for that to happen. It is also of great importance that we tackle the issue of drug abuse, because much of drug abuse is linked to crime. And many of our youth who are committing these crimes, regrettably, are using these drugs. So I think it is essential that we put stricter measures in place in terms of reducing the accessibility to these drugs, where then the youth would have lesser access to these drugs and they can be on a straight path. And this matter is not a government matter, it's not an opposition matter. It requires the help of all sectors of society. And I think it is essential that communities take ownership of their own safety and well-being. It also requires us as individuals to be a part of the solution. Let us be the generation that changes this issue, that rises to meet this challenge. Let us act with courage, with unity, and with determination to make Barbados a safer, more peaceful place for all, conducive to a positive environment. And with that, I pledge to you.
A quick note, honorable members, you have 5 minutes to speak, and if your time has elapsed, you must request additional time to speak. I now recognize honorable member on the opposition side, Zakia Sandiford.
Many young individuals
Honorable member, I caution you against reading.
Without access to jobs, education, or support networks, crime becomes tempting, if temporary, solutions to immediate needs. The absence of hope and opportunity fuels this cycle, perpetuating instability across generations. Youth unemployment does not only harm individuals, it weakens entire communities. Unemployed young people often become disengaged from society, and their involvement in illegal activities destabilizes neighborhoods, making them less attractive for investment or development. Madam Speaker, songwriter John King says, "So many sons lost in slaughter, blood running in the street like water." And I'm sure you can see that happening before our eyes today. And there's also another local artist who says, "1 minute you rapping here, next minute you rapping there, block hopper, you like one thing anyway." And Madam Speaker, is this what we're promoting for our youth? I don't know if you noticed, but the music that is coming out nowadays is a strong influence, especially on our young people, ma'am. And it is very disheartening to see what is happening in our community and what we're allowing to happen. Why have we waited till the number of murders gone so high to say, let me fix this? It's like if your washing machine is broken and you wait till all your clothes are not to say you, God damn, my washing machine fix. It's like we are just waiting till everything happens to then try to fix it, and that is unacceptable. And with that, Madam Speaker, I'm
I now recognize the honorable member on the government side, Davidson Griffith.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, all honorable members. Madam Speaker, over the years, we have been seeing crime and violence in our homes, communities, institutions, and schools. What is crime and violence? A crime is a deliberate act that causes physical or physiological harm, danger to or loss of property, and is against the law. Violence is a behavior involving physical force intended to hurt, damage, or kill someone or something. Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, crime and violence are among the most pressing issues in society today. We cannot ignore the profound impact they have on individuals, families, and entire communities. While there are certain many factors contributing to crime and violence, it's essential to focus on the root causes: poverty, lack of education, social inequality, and system failures in law enforcement and the justice system. Madam Speaker, when people are trapped in the cycle of poverty, they often lack across the resources they need to lead productive life. The lack of education or opportunity can push individuals towards criminal activities such as a mean of service or estimate, but a lack of support systems such as mental health care or social services, which we are making an improve on, but in marginalized community they desperately need. We must address the root causes directly.
Honorable member, I caution you against reading.
We must address the root causes directly rather than relying solely on quantitative information, but also quantitative facts. We know the youth are running to crime, but why? We need reform in our economic system. Education, and healthcare. Mental health services and creating more job opportunities will help reduce the rate that lead people to crime. Furthermore, a more reliability approach.
Reading is not allowed.
Sorry, ma'am. Forgive me, ma'am. A more reliability approach in our criminal justice system, focusing on I don't know that word.
Honorable member, please take your seat. I now recognize the honorable member on the opposition side, Ngozi Skeet.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Pardon? Njozi. My apologies, honorable member.
No problem, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, honorable members, specially invited guests, good afternoon. I rise to speak on the topic of crime and violence in Barbados because we have seen a recent rise in crime and violence in Barbados, namely amongst our youth. 16, 17, 18 years old, committing crimes against their fellow man. Why so young? Terrorizing our schools and our communities. I will share with you guys a recent event that happened this September. At the Alexandra Secondary School, there was an incident in which a student was stabbed. I will show you another incident. I'm sure you all saw the video that was circulating last year of the ZR driver that fended off 2 armed robbers, protecting his life and his property to the extent that he scared one of the criminals. Now we have a
Honorable
worldwide...
member, please avoid personal references.
Yes, ma'am. That we now have a worldwide recognized line. I want my mother. I want my mother. Madam Speaker, I agree. Any youth that displays delinquent behavior need a mother, need a father, and most of all, need Jesus. But I digress. The Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit conducted a survey in which 16% of participants felt unsafe because of robberies. So much so that now there has been an increase in the implementation of security measures. Madam Speaker, I believe that to dispense with the delinquency seen in our youth, we must first dispense with their bad behaviors. To dispense with these crimes, we must address their bad behaviors.
Honorable member, I caution you
Yes,
against
ma'am.
reading.
This resolution fails to address the moral fabric, the erosion of the moral fabric in our society. We once had moral values, very good values, like that Protestant work ethic, which said it's good for a man to work hard in order to glorify and honor God. They worked with zeal to stay up late by candle or street light, with the dedication, with the resolution in their hearts to be better than the generation that came before them. Now, what do we have? We have a generation that idolizes gang culture, that thinks it's okay to steal, kill, and destroy. These people that we now raise in our community, they no longer serve us. They now serve to harm us. Children now listen to art pieces made by criminals, or at the very least ones who support such criminal behaviors, expressing their tales of violence. In fact, there was a paper written by a very, very close neighbor entitled Dancehall, Hip-Hop, Youth Perceptions of Sexuality and Violence by Dr. W. Mark Jackman, which states, and I quote, we can confirm the powerful effects of dancehall and hip-hop music on youth, perceptions of sexuality and association with violent behavior in Trinidad. Some of you might say, what does this study have to do with Barbados? Well, I will tell you. The Honorable Mia Moore-Martley, President of Barbados, and the Honorable the Prime Minister of Barbados, and...
Honorable member, on what point do you raise?
I raise on the point of order. The honorable member is reading.
Please take your seat, honorable member.
I would like to inform...
Honorable member, you have 30 seconds
Yes,
remaining.
ma'am. I would like to inform the honorable member that just now I was making a quotation, but I thank you for reminding me of the rules and the standing orders. But I will continue. The Honorable Mia Moore-Martley, President of Barbados, Prime Minister of Barbados, I'm sorry, my apologies, and the Honorable Minister of Homeland Affairs, of Home Affairs and Information, Wilfred Abrams, both think that Barbadian dancehall artists should serve their community.
Honorable member, your time has elapsed,
Yes.
but I will allow you 10 seconds for the interruption.
They have an obligation to protect our society by producing music that is conducive to the society, not songs that elicit violence, that drives our youth to seek paths of destruction,
Honorable
but
member,
rather
please
paths
stick.
that will bring unity and support a brighter future for our people. Thank you. And with that, Madam Speaker, I'm obliged.
I now recognize the honorable member on the government side, Roshana Clark.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker and all honorable members. Violence has been surgically implanted into our institutions of learning. For instance, Term 1 started on September 16, 2024. On September 24, 2024, a student from the Alexandria School was stabbed during an altercation, leading to a halt in classes.
Honorable member, I caution you against reading.
I'm reading.
And please avoid personal references.
No problem. However, I was reading the article. But why, Madam Speaker? The Barbados Criminal Justice and Research Unit cannot even answer this, as they are not even allowed to conduct research in institutions of learning. Yet, according to a report conducted by the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit, 44% of inmates had previously interfaced with the juvenile justice system. This goes to show limitation restrictions their capacity to provide a comprehensive and nuanced system of the specific factors contributing to juvenile delinquency in Barbados. Moreover, as the adage goes, old habits die hard. In this particular instance, the aggressive behavior exhibited by adults, such as assault, is influencing the behavior of teenagers today. This is evident in the popular phrase, men is bad boys, which reflects the concerning normalization of violence. Nevertheless, some persons think that they cannot turn over to a new leaf. For example, there was a person that was not very close to me, but a person that I knew, who turned to a life of crime when he was early. In his early age, about 15, 16. He wasn't doing very well academically, so he decided, you know what, I'm just going to steal and thief because, well, my mom and my dad can't afford it, so I have to defend on my own. He got into altercation and was brutally shot 5 times in his back. On his deathbed, the last thing I remember him saying was, I wish I'd gotten the chance to change my life around. Another question I have always wondered, where the guns coming from? And this is a general inquiry because according to the Media Institute of the Caribbean, 41% of crimes involve firearms, yet Barbados does not make any guns. This issue is so great. The U.S. Government Accountability Office website stated, and I quote, more than half of these murders involving guns, many of which can be traced back to the United States, acknowledging the issue of guns entering the Caribbean. Importantly, Mary Lou once said, every problem has a solution. Therefore, we should permit the criminal justice and research team conduct research in institutions of learning. Where there's potential drawbacks such as privacy concerns and disruption of academic environment, the benefits of allowing crime and research units to conduct research in institutions of learning outweighs the risk. by implementing strict ethical guidelines, ensuring informed consent, prioritizing data security, fostering open communication, and establishing oversight mechanisms. The potential for valuable insights, innovative research, and
Honorable member, you have 40 seconds remaining.
no problem. And improved public safety can be realized. Secondly, better programs that we have currently. And we can create new ones for specific persons. For example, there's a program I like to call LEARN. LEARN stands for, LEAD. LEAD stands for Learn, Engage, Awareness, Deter. This program would be aimed at juveniles who repetitively commit crimes without reason. This program uses convicts who would deter children aggressively from
Honorable
crime.
member, your time has elapsed.
No problem. May I have 30 seconds to close?
You may.
This heightened awareness can act as a strong deterrent, prompting critical self-reflection and potentially leading to positive behavioral changes. Moreover, the programs that we have right now, I believe that we should use them mainly for persons who struggle from mental health, who have trauma, as my honorable members and government say well previously mentioned. Additionally, the Barbados Criminal Justice Research Planning Unit could monitor the effectiveness of these programs. Previously, the leader of the opposition mentioned
Honorable
that...
member, your time has elapsed. Please take your seat.
No problem.
I now recognize the honorable member on the opposition side, Zahara Richard.
Barbados has seen a rise of violent incidents. Good afternoon, Madam Speaker, honorable members. My apologies. Barbados has seen a rise in violent incidents and crimes in recent years, including murders, robberies, gang-related crime, and gun violence. As a matter of fact, according to criminologist Ms. Kim Ramsey's most recent crime studies, there has been an alarmingly significant rise in violent homicides in Barbados. Many members of the public, however, will argue that studies could be beneficial, but it doesn't only take research to address what is clearly evident. Unfortunately, it can also be said that crime and violence take place of ignorance and misdirection, which are the function in this culture of violence. In this situation, Madam Speaker, what should we do? Raise our hands and place blame elsewhere, such as on the church, parents, or even schools? I agree that in accordance with Barbados' resolution on crime and violence, that it will be beneficial to conduct background checks on firearms, or even to implement red flag laws, which permit temporary seizures on firearms from anyone deemed to be a danger to themselves or to others. One of the problems, though, is that gun owners obtain their firearms illegally. As of time passes, their method to obtain these firearms or other weapons are growing increasingly creative. What if research conducted with goals of identifying the origins or even closing down weapon suppliers, which include those involved in activities of 3D printed firearms? Yes, I agree, peer pressure, family issues, or even unemployment may all be factors of crime and violence, but what are we doing to fix these problematic areas which are the scene of criminal activities? In actuality, what about those people, particularly those jailed for relatively small offenses, or who are free from prison but were unable to find their way outside, so they commit crimes or even engage in unlawful activities to make it back to prison? Most inmates are very, I can say, talented and have performed exceptionally well in arts and drama at NIFCA events.
In addition, Barbados Today recently reported that a prison inmate has written a Silver Award-winning article titled BPS Stars that brought attention to gun violence and the realities of prison life. But why do they commit these crimes? Why do they not make most of their talents? I suppose that many people had lose their identity when they engage in violence, and our country's brothers and sisters will suffer as a result. That brings me to ask the question again. What are we doing to fix these problematic areas that are the scene of criminal activities? And for that, Madam Speaker, I oblige.
I now acknowledge the honorable member on the government side, Rihanna Burgess.
Madam Speaker, honorable members, good afternoon. As you have heard from my colleagues, there is an imperative need for preventative measures to protect our youth from falling into this mantra of crime and violence. Earlier in starting this session, session, we would have heard of the need to protect our borders, particularly our port of entry. It's my belief that red flag laws, though, yes, they may be tailored to particularly the U.S., it's not unheard of for countries to modify said laws to cater to our needs or what is to our needs. So it is my belief that we modify these laws so that they can help us to empower our authorities to take preemptive actions in safeguarding our borders and helping them to flag and intercept unregistered vessels and unusual maritime movements. Our Coast Guard operates on specific legal frameworks, with obtaining permissions and engaging with customs and immigration for vessel inspections. Though we have introduced licensing for small vessel operators to tighten our regulations and our security, there is still a gap in rapid response from authorities in dealing or countering suspicious activities. It is the 2024 Caribbean Basin Security Initiative highlights the importance of safeguarding our borders in helping us to combat transnational crime. However, these transnational crime aid in increasing our crime rates. And with red flag laws, this allows us to engage, to ask our community to not turn a blind eye in providing the necessary information in combating persons who are unequipped to handle these weapons. Secondly, improving our crime and violence research. And improving our crime and violence research is imperative. We have a lack of in-depth research or insights of the root causes of crime and violence. In doing my research, I found a lack of detailed sources of why young persons fall into illegal activities. Though yes, we know that they come from the lack of unemployment and with family situations.
Honorable member, you have 1 minute remaining.
Okay. Right. In an article by Barbados Today, University Professor Dwayne Devonish states that many crime-fighting strategies lack an evidence-based foundation. Yes, we have a lot of nice-looking policies and strategies. However, there is a need for proper implementation of interventions in producing or creating tailored programs to help us to combat these crime problems. Let us not. Therefore, I suggest engaging with our regional partners to share data and the best practices.
Honorable member, your time has elapsed.
Can I have 30 minutes to wrap up? Sorry, 30 seconds.
You may have 30 seconds
my
to
bad.
wrap up.
Therefore, to share data and the best practices, fostering a coordinated approach to crime prevention, creating an institution that is designed to research these root causes, as well as implementing tailored projects for stopping this recurring cycle. Let us as a nation lead by example in integrating proactive legislation like red flag laws with a commitment to evidence-based policies. With this, I oblige.
I now recognize the honorable member on the opposition side, Renisha Connell.
Madam Speaker, good afternoon. I would like to quote the resolution and focus mainly on one word that is said here. The resolution states as follows: incidents of violence among youth, both within schools and the wider community, appear to be on the rise, indicating the need for preventative measures that focus on youth safety and peaceful conflict resolution. I would like us to focus on that word need, because it indicates that there are not already measures in place that focus on the youth. I would like to bring your attention to the banner to your left, where it states that there's the Barbados Youth Advanced Corps Youth Development Program. There's also a Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme, and many more that are not stated on the banner. Now, honestly, like I said, focusing on the word need, it's apparent that there are already these preventative measures in place. The need is for the government to ensure that these preventative measures are running effectively and productively. And again, looking at that word need, it makes me question if the government is aware of these resources that they have there in place for the youth. Are these resources so ineffective and so unproductive that they are invisible to the government? Now, as said before, as mentioned before, the lack of utilization and engagement in these programs are the main issue. The government needs to raise attention to the fact that we are not seeing the youth participating in these programs that they have in place. we see that with that, Madam Speaker, I oblige.
I now recognize the honorable member on the government side, Raymond Small.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, honorable members and guests. Madam Speaker, 2024, we witnessed an unusual amount of violent acts. I remember a period, I believe it was June, July, where every other day we're hearing about a murder, somebody gets stabbed at school, and it was so bad that I saw everybody questioning what is going on, what is happening to our youth, what is happening in Barbados, and what are we coming to? Now, I wouldn't be able to cover all the points I would like to, given the short amount of time, but I want to make it very clear that I fully support every single point on this resolution. Today, I would like to start by explaining the approach that I would like to answer some of these questions. What are we coming to? What's happening to the young people in Barbados? And I would like to approach these questions from a psychological perspective. What's going on up here? What's happening in their minds? Because it is very easy to blame or place blame on things that are out of our control or out of their control. It's very easy to blame the high cost of living, the environment, all these things. It's very easy to place blame. And actually, I would like to give you an example. When I say place blame, when this is very easy to place blame, I mean as though it's easier to say he did it, or it's his fault, it's her fault, rather than take accountability or look inside yourself, look within and say, this is my fault. No. I read that the Barbados Prison Service offers mental health services to inmates as individual and group counseling, psychological assessments, and vocational and treatment planning. And I wondered if there could possibly be a way that all of the data collected from these psychological assessments can be used to conduct a study on these convicted felons, get inside their heads and understand what's been going on. Because the opposition leader mentioned earlier today, we have to look at things like living conditions, trauma, mental health. And I completely agree, because we can't always assume that it's because the young people have nothing to do. We can't always blame unemployment. We can't always say the young people are always on the block and smoking. What if some of these acts are violence or traumatic responses? What if there are problems growing up in the household? What if there are undiagnosed mental illnesses? Could there be a solution as simple as therapy? Could therapy be a way to mitigate some of these crimes? Can we sit down, these children, understand what's happening inside of their heads? Madam Speaker, do you know why young people of Barbados are becoming increasingly violent?
Honorable member, I caution you against reading.
Madam Speaker, I am not reading. I'm just referring to my notes as a guide, so I stay on track in order.
I see. Proceed.
Okay. But that's what I wanted to stress on this point in the resolution today. Be it further resolved that the government of Barbados explore funding avenues for research in the root causes of violence, ensuring that policies are informed by current data on the social, economic, and
Honorable
psychological.
member, you have 45 seconds remaining.
Okay, closing up. Current data on the social, economic, and psychological contributors to crime and violence in Barbados. We need to understand what's happening psychologically. Is it something in the water? Is it something in the weed that they're supposedly smoking, all the weed that these young people smoking? This resolution, I hope I was able to highlight the importance of this resolution, because I strongly believe that it's a step in the right direction. And with that being said, I'm obliged.
I now recognize the honorable member on the opposition side. Could you please raise your... Mika King.
Madam Speaker, honorable members, judges, and most importantly, Barbados. An honorable member on the government side had stated earlier that this resolution is only a start to what the government has planned. But if this is the start, then our future is not looking promising. Our topic is crime and violence, but all I am hearing is guns, 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 firearms, firearms, firearms. Anyway, the Prime Minister gave an address stating, and I quote, "The government of Barbados has agreed that we will establish immediately an advisory and national advisory council on citizen security. And this council on citizen security is intended to be able to have the widest possible ownership of things that we must consider and do in order to be able to ensure that Barbados does not fall down the rabbit hole that regrettably other countries have fallen down into as a result of the access in particular to assault weapons and automatic weapons. Everybody, including the government of Barbados, are talking about said weapons, knives, cutlasses, guns, and even the infamous 2x4s. But what about the others? As far as I know, gun doesn't decide to pull its own trigger, cutlass doesn't decide to swing, and the 2x4s don't decide to just raise themselves up and hit. Where, in this ever-disappointing resolution, does it mention the weapons youth are using to power their bodies, these chemical weapons? Drugs, people. I'm talking about drugs. The youth are on drugs, and it isn't the nice, pure cut, straight off the tree marijuana, or even a little mix of alcohol and said weed. These are mix-ups of all different types of narcotics, and they really and truly should not even be near to developing minds. The APA tells us about these mix-ups, and I quote, "These drugs affect neurotransmitter levels such as dopamine and serotonin, which play a role in mood regulation and motivation. Over time, these changes can lead to compulsive behavior and diminished capacity for logical reasoning." Diminished capacity for logical reasoning. Now I'll choose to address the youth of Barbados. If you think that to get up and go shoot someone and then end up wasting your life away in prison is a logical reason, you are clearly misplacing your common sense. You have education which was placed in your hands freely, and you are squandering it. Wasting away your life enjoying cute. Jail ain't cute. Prison is not cute. Prisoners every day make statements stating how terrible Dodds is, and yet you all are so comfortable going out to shoot somebody or to kill somebody, stab, slash, rob, anything, just so you can, have a little name, a slogan, a slang, whatever it is. It doesn't make sense.
Coming up in the car this morning, I heard a song. No clue what it's named, but it goes something like, rifle me kill for my brother them, or some ignorant soul. Just to let you all know, if your brothers are getting you to kill for them, they are not your brothers, and they do not care about you. But Madam Speaker, you can lead a horse to water.
Honorable member, you have 1 minute remaining.
I'm closing up. You can lead a horse to water. You can bring it closer to the water. How? You could even bring the water closer to it. You could take its head and push it into the water to the point that it could drown. But, Madam Speaker, you and I know can't make a horse drink. All I'm left to do now is oblige to you.
I now recognize the honorable member on the government side, Thea Herbert.
Madam Speaker, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, judges, good afternoon. I would like to begin with reading the 6th be it further resolved clause that states, the Ministry of Home Affairs, Information and Public Affairs examine the potential benefits of expanding community policing efforts, fostering collaboration between law enforcement and communities to rebuild trust and support effective policing and to assess the resource implications of such an initiative. As the Prime Minister stated earlier, we've all seen the videos of the police going to arrest people, and the people in the community are up in their face, stopping them from doing their job, cursing and carrying on. This cannot be for the betterment of our country. Community cooperation with the police creates partnership, which prevents crimes, solves problems, and creates overall safety for everyone. When the police engage in personal conversations, listen, and address problems, that builds trust with the community. People willing to report crimes, share information, work together on crime prevention. We, as a government and opposition, and as a people of Barbados, cannot take the avenue that is the cooperation between the police and communities for granted. The communities build us, the men, the young men, and women of Barbados, and therefore we must be collaborative with them. When the police and the community come together, the community can help them best understand the challenges that they have going on, which then helps the police best deploy resources and help specific challenges happening in said community. We need to let our community and police work together. We cannot drive them away. In conclusion, cooperative relationships are essential for the betterment of our young people and for the betterment of Barbados, and therefore I am obliged.
I now recognize the honorable member on the opposition side, Dominique King.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I begin today, I would like to give this honorable House a glimpse into how I've been feeling these past couple months, these past couple weeks. As I sit down and I read the news daily, I find myself feeling disheartened, feeling shocked, feeling more than anything else, confused as I ask myself, but why? Why is it that this is the state of our country? Why is it that this is where we're going? As a story was circulating about a young man at a particular secondary school, which I won't name, and we heard his mother crying out, speaking about how her son was subjected to physical abuse daily. And as I read that, it broke my heart. Not just for her, not just for him, but for these young men that think that this is the way to deal with conflict, that this is the way to handle their issues. And it makes me wonder, why? What is wrong? What is happening that this is where they're going? Why? That's the big question, isn't it? Yet it's evident to me upon reading this resolution that this is one that's gone completely over the government's head. They have yet to ask it. They're not going to the root of the issues that are facing this society. Matter of fact, the only time they mention it is when they make us aware that they're still trying to figure it out. They're now trying to do research to figure out the social issues and the economic issues, but then are going to try to look at everything else when they haven't even begun where it truly counts. Now, I'll give an example. The resolution speaks to mandatory extracurricular activities, and that's great, but it makes me wonder, okay, is it a case where our young people will go play some basketball and then shoot someone? Will they go play some road tennis and then stab someone? Will they play some cricket and then go and beat up somebody's child? That's the question that I'm asking, and these questions are coming to me because they're not making a real dent in the social issues that are facing our young people. Because when they come back from netball practice, when they come back from debate practice, what are they meeting at home? What is waiting for them at the door? That is what the government is failing to look at. Now, moving on. The government also speaks about getting rid of, or rather, let me give a direct quote, restricting firearm access. And this will be great if people use guns because they seem like a great way to spend their leisure time. But no, people use guns because there is something at the heart and the root of our young people, something that is broken, something that is sick, that needs to be cured, that needs to be looked at. And if it's not a gun, it's going to be a big rock, it's going to be a knife, it's going to be a Collins, because where there's a will, there's a way. And this resolution is only looking at taking away one form of means, but no motive. And I'll take this moment to even just address the fact that these solutions I've mentioned, they're very glamorous, they're very pretty, they're very ideal. However, it's almost like putting a Band-Aid over a gunshot wound. On the face of it, everything looks like it's been fixed. On the surface, everything looks great. But at the root of it, the hearts of our youth are bleeding out. And they need more. They need better, and we owe it to them. And we owe it to ourselves and to our nation to give them more. Now, I know I've spoken about the fact that there is a lot at the root of these issues, but I haven't really given many examples, so I'll take this time to do that. A study conducted by UNICEF, and I am reading my statistics, so pardon me. A study conducted.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you. A study conducted by UNICEF between 2015 and 2021 on Latin America and the Caribbean found a connection between domestic violence and persons growing up into substance abuse issues. And this study even went on to cite another study conducted even closer to home, right here in Barbados and Guyana, that found that persons who grew up exposed to high and moderate levels were far more likely to result to violent behavior themselves, as opposed to those who are not so exposed. And this right here speaks for itself. This is the kind of thing that the government needs to look at. This is the root of the problem. But while we're on domestic violence, let's talk about the fact that it's not even in the resolution. Now, my opposition leader would have mentioned this as well, but not even just domestic violence. Where's gender-based crime? Where's sexual offenses? I don't see it. The UN Women Caribbean conducted a study.
Remember, your time has elapsed.
May I please have 30 minutes to finish up? 30 seconds to finish up. Wishful thinking.
You may have 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. And when I look at this study, it says that top 10 of the recorded rape rates in the world occur here in the Caribbean. Did the government not know about that? Did they not bother to look? Which one is it? I'll leave you with that. But all in all, in finishing up, it makes me wonder, what about women? What about children? Why aren't we looking at everyone? And the honorable member earlier would have stated that this is just a start. And that's great. But I would like to remind this honorable house that when you start wrong, you end wrong. And there are issues at the core of our communities, and until they're addressed, I'm concerned that I'm going to have to watch the news every day and continue to ask myself, why? And with this, I'll oblige to you.
Honorable Member, I now recognize the Honorable Member on the government side, Nersa McCrae Williams.
Madam Speaker, honorable members, good afternoon. But why? That is truly the question we are all asking today. Why don't we start? Or is this a good start? Well, as a young individual navigating the development space, there are always all these issues on the agenda: hunger, poverty, unemployment, climate financing, all these different issues. And I always come to the question, how will we get ahead, or when will we get ahead and reasonably solve the problems that we face as a nation and by extension the region? Which leads me to a quote I created. There's this fact that we know what the ideal is, we know what we ideally want. We may need, however, to pause and reevaluate to reach the point where we're not chasing the problem, but actually solving it. And this resolution is as a result of that. We as a government have paused, evaluated, and proposed a framework that can build or provide the foundation that we need to solve the problem. We no longer want to be responding to the ravages of crime and violence among youth, but we want to be implementing measures that target the root of crime and violence. So let's reinforce why we're here. According to the research conducted by the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit, of the inmates interviewed who committed offenses on more than one occasion, almost 50% of them had a conviction at the age between 18 and 24. Furthermore, the range of any perpetrator between last year and this year, that individual was probably between the age of 16 and 19. Let that sink in. So then when we're asking why, when we're wondering what is happening, and then the opposition would be saying, oh, we need to get statistics. But then another member might be saying, oh, we need to use the research that we have in the region. No, we need research here. We need to do work within our nation. So that is why we are exploring, that is why we are proposing deeper research. And we're not intending to start from scratch. Our government has put in place the National Advisory Council on Citizen Security. And I don't think that we understand the potential that this particular council can have. It is advised that as we explore creating programs, furthermore enhancing programs, we map what we have existing in our nation, which is research, so that we can get the statistics that we need to understand whether or not we are reaching these individuals. And that council can play a critical role because it is within all sectors of society. We want to be able to map, understand who is in the space, understand what and who they're reaching, and if they're reaching them effectively. So if there is Barbados doing parenting programs in one area, and there's another youth program understanding that they're parenting issues with their beneficiaries, why not link the two? All of that is needed. All of that is in this resolution. When we say research and create programs, they're not in silo, they work in tandem. Additionally, or I should say finally, to add to this, our social workers, we've neglected to mention it earlier, but our social workers have the grassroots perspectives, and we cannot fail to include them in this. So as we're saying we're creating programs, we want to make sure that these programs are in the communities and they're not just coming to us. We need to meet the people where they're at. We don't want to just duplicate resources, we want to maximize them. We don't just want to hinder linkages, we want to make sure that we facilitate and foster the communities that we seek to have in this region. And with that, I want to reinforce, we do not want to chase.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Yes, please. With that, we do not want to chase the problem, we want to solve it. And that is what this resolution proposes. I'm obliged to you.
I now recognize the honorable member on the opposition side, Terrence Richards.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me begin by acknowledging the efforts made in drafting this resolution and the intent behind it, which is to address the scourge of crime and violence in our nation. We agree, Madam Speaker, that this issue demands immediate and decisive action. However, what we've seen and heard today and what this resolution shows is that the government still tends to fall short when it comes for the time to propose a resolution. Madam Speaker, this resolution rightly highlights unemployment, firearm regulation, and recidivism. Yet, as the honorable members of the opposition have pointed out, it treats these issues as isolated factors rather than symptoms of a larger systematic problem with our society. But, Madam Speaker, I am not going to submit my speech on these topics as they've already been spoken about extensively. I'm going to submit my observation of the mannerisms of the government side. Any organization is reflected in the beliefs and ideals of its leaders. That was a quote from me, Madam Speaker. The leader of government business spoke on how some of the mentioned programs in the resolution would increase and decrease this and that, but by how much, Madam Speaker? By 2%, by 20%? This sort of language, this sort of rhetoric is what sort of underpins the foundations of this resolution, in that it is very unstable, it's unclear, it's very shaky. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister's speech baffled me. In one breath, forgive me, I'm quoting. In one breath, the Prime Minister says, we have policies that are rooted in evidence. And in another, uses rhetoric like, while we might think we know, research is still necessary. The Prime Minister follows this with, having the research helps us create programs where we are sure that people will benefit.
What I said is that we need, not that we have, and that is why I support this resolution.
I won't retract. I'm sorry, was she recognized again?
Order. Honorable member, please take your seat.
I just want to clarify that he was misleading host before anybody say what was the point of order. That's all.
I won't retract anything that I've stated. Now, the Honorable Prime Minister would have said, having the research helps us create programs where we are sure that people will benefit. Now, as a few honorable members of the opposition would have pointed out, there's a statement that came from the government side that this is a start, the resolution is a start. And I asked the government side, do we know what a resolution is? Do we know what it means to resolve an issue? I looked to the third clause in the Be It Resolved section of the resolution. Be it further resolved that the government of Barbados review the feasibility of implementing background checks for firearm purchases. Review the feasibility. Does this sound like having the research helps us create programs where we are sure that people will benefit? Are we sure, or are we still researching? I commend the government on their efforts in starting their research, but it starts at the wrong time. The resolution is not the time to be researching. It's not the time to be calling for the start of our reviews upon the feasibility of what we want to implement. That is not the time. This should have been done prior in the drafting of the resolution so that when you come in this honorable chamber, you can bring forward a resolution.
Please pause. I will allow you your time to finish up, but I would like at this time to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Corey Lane, the Minister of State in the Office of the Attorney General. You may continue.
Welcome, Mr. Lane, Honorable Corey Lane. Now, I would like to point out again, or reiterate, that the resolution is not the place to be calling for the start of research on policies to be implemented.
1 minute remaining.
I apologize?
You have 1 minute remaining.
Oh, thank you, Madam Speaker. Now, outside of the leaders the reflection of the government side, honorable members have said statements which have had my head spinning, Madam Speaker. You can't put the food, and you can't put the food there and force the horse to eat it. Now, I understand this statement, I understand what it means. And coming from the government side, I find myself a little confused on what that means for the resolution. Are we saying that these programs to which we are putting out there, some youth will simply refuse? Then are we not sidestepping and hand-waving the root causes that the members of the opposition have been pointing out? Now, Madam Speaker, I call on this government to finish their research. I commend that they have started their research. I call on this government to finish their research and bring back a resolution which actually aims to resolve the issues of crime and violence in Barbados. And with that, Madam Speaker, I am obliged.
I now recognize the honorable member on the government side, Nathaniel Niles.
Madam Speaker, guests, honorable members, good afternoon. I come to the conclusion of asking myself, when it comes to our society, what happened to the Bridgetown early, Saturday morning? See the women, how they're calling. Come for your breadfruit, come for your corn, come for the apples fresh at the morning. So how many more? Madam Speaker, we live in a society where, sadly, our youth, when you ask them what you want to be, you'll be thinking, okay, a footballer, a doctor, a lawyer. No, I want to be a Malandro. Madam Speaker, when we think about what a Malandro is, we would be appalled like, huh? But I digress. Throughout this resolution that the government side have brought forth, we are prepared to put an end to the crime and violence in our society. Through the be it resolved clauses, we are able to come in society and make a true difference. Now, I will agree that the opposition have made some good points that we will take into consideration. However, drastic times call for drastic measures. How many more persons are we going to let go through the chute and die before we decide we're going to stand up as the community, whether opposition, whether government, and work together to solve the problem in our society? It starts from us. It starts from us. We have to work together. Us, the police, everybody. It takes a holistic approach to solve the problem in this country. So whether we look at it from the opposition aspect or government aspect, this resolution right here is the starting foundation to solve these issues. I understand that it may need a little bit of tweaking or some point added in, but however, this is the starting foundation that we as the government are standing upon to solve the problems in this country. So however, we thank the opposition for the fact of them saying, well, it need this, it need that. That ain't a problem. But we will deal with that as we as we take our cart down the road to solve these issues in these honorable chambers, Madam Speaker. I stand here today as a member of the government, not allowing the opposition to come here and belittle our resolution that is able to make a difference in this society in these dire times. Now, don't get me wrong, Madam Speaker. I understand that there are other underlying issues that were not mentioned. However, we as a government, or rather I should say we as a parliament, should work together to add in the issues that weren't mentioned and solve the problem in our own country. It starts for us. We are the next generation. If you want to see Barbados destroyed, if you want to see problems solved, it takes us. It's not a one-man job. That's why it states here about the police and the community involvement working together. That is what is needed. That is what is missing. You had the old time days where if the rain was coming down, I'll be like, wait, the rain coming down, Georgie gone down. I can go and take off the clothes from off the land and put them in his house. Those days are going through the edits. Those days are going through the edit, and the need to come back We need to come back to the place where we will see a young man getting past and we will tell you, well, hey, skipper, nah, that can't work. Down the road for you to go down. But because we've come to a point in society, as Prime Minister would have previously stated, that persons are afraid or the word that the house will get burned down. But we have to make a decision. Are we going to allow persons to continually be killed? Or are we going to stand up alongside of the law enforcement to put an end to this and bring back the community empowerment that is needed in our society today? So as we
Honorable
reflect,
member, you have 1 minute remaining.
no problem. So as we reflect, let us consider this. This is our home. We say in the national anthem, the Lord has been the people's guide for the past 300 years. With him on the people's side, we have no doubts or fears. We need to cling back to the God that started it, and he's the God that can finish it, and he's the God that can keep us. So today I want us to just ponder upon it. That is a holistic approach that is needed to solve the problems in this country. And with that, I am obliged to you.
Leader of the opposition.
That's a hard one to follow. But I'll try my best. Madam Speaker, we, the opposition, have come here today. We heard everything everybody said regarding domestic violence, reducing recidivism, sorry. Both sides of the floor would have addressed a number of issues. And I think it's important that, although, yes, we sit on two different sides, that the opposition made a very good case. And the last member that spoke and was who came from the bowels of the opposition, and the member next to him would have alluded to the fact that the opposition kept him on their toes. And so, I wish to say a robust debate we have today, and the opposition look forward to how we move forward in terms of solving this issue of crime and violence, because everything that we said here today, no matter how small it is, somebody will hear us, and somebody will join us in this fight for change. And with those few words, Madam Speaker, I'm
Leader of government business.
Thank you for acknowledging me once again, Madam Speaker. With the remaining time that I have today, I just want to brief. Okay, hear me, right? Okay. Right, but I don't know if the video could pick up, so I assume it's the time. Is it possible I can get the mic over here? It seems to be the same thing, unfortunately. Okay. But as I was saying, what I want to do now is just to briefly recap on some of the things that the opposition would have brought up, as well as then summarize what is mentioned within the resolution. One of the first things that stood out to me, and it is understandable, there is no mention of domestic violence within the resolution. And the further rationale behind including domestic violence is that an extremely high rate within Barbados. Apparently, I was hoping to receive some amount of statistics, or at least like Let me understand that domestic violence is a problem from a research perspective. However, as I listen to all of the opposition members, they fail to provide any research that speaks specifically to domestic violence in Barbados. And in addition to that, even if domestic violence isn't included within the resolution, there is the mention of conflict resolution skills. And what that tells me is that after the crime and violence debate, we may need to go back to the education debate, because it seems as though the opposition lacks the necessary comprehension skills to interpret that conflict resolution.
Honorable member, it is out of order for you to make reference to any debate or any bill which is not currently under discussion.
Madam Speaker, I was merely proposing that the next debate may resolve.
Honorable member, proceed.
Education.
Proceed.
Now, on to the next point. There is mention that one of the reasons or the contributing factors to the violence in Barbados is due to youth on drugs. Again, I am yet to see the statistics in Barbados that say the young men that are partaking in the crimes today are on drugs when they are in the process of facilitating those activities. So when you really look at what the opposition has provided today, it is not based upon facts and research, but it is based solely on opinions and beliefs. I will give some credit where it's due. The only mention of research that was done and could possibly apply in Barbados is that within Jamaica, it was mentioned by the opposition, of course, that by targeting specific areas that are known as hot pockets of crime, there was a 33% reduction in the amount of violence that they saw within these areas. But again, as it is proposed within the resolution, what we need is exact research that speaks to what is going on in Barbados. Because while Jamaica may share the sun and the sand, we are two similar but still completely different cultures. And it is based upon that we have brought forward this resolution. Madam Speaker, I don't know if you will remember, but in the past there was a beautiful honorable member whose beauty was only surpassed by her intellect when she mentioned that a solution comprises of three things. And I'm going to use the acronym, AAA, actually. And these three things consist of acknowledgement, advice, and action. We acknowledge the root of this issue. Crime and violence is a problem, but it is important to understand that there's a subsection of our society that is viewing crime and violence as a solution and their only option. And it is based upon that realization that the resolution comes about. By equipping these young men with the necessary conflict resolution skills. When we look at the data in the criminal justice of research, data provided by the Criminal Justice and Research Unit showed that a lot of the young men that are getting into this trouble today, it isn't even based on life-threatening situations, but it is based on if somebody looks at me wrong, somebody steps on my shoes, somebody gives me concrete for reasons. Maybe not the last one, but I hope you get the point. These persons need the necessary abilities to express themselves, to prevent these types of things from occurring. And that is why it is necessary to have the conflict resolution skills within the schools. In addition to that, Madam Speaker, there also needs to be the mandatory participation of extracurricular activities by all students who are in school. What we see now is the expression of violence. What we want to give these young people the ability to do is to show that there are other avenues. There is the expression of art, there is the expression of sport, and then there's also the expression of language which we are currently participating in. And that covers just the first two be it resolved sections within the resolution. But when we look at everything else that flows from that, it addresses those two base issues. And after we look at the root causes of crime and violence within Barbados, is then when we will address what are the tools that are currently being used to facilitate these crimes, such as the guns. Again, according to the Criminal Justice Research and Unit, of all of the homicides that would occur in the past, it is estimated that roughly 40 to 44% involve guns. So after we address the root of the issue, which is in conflict resolution skills, it is also equally important that we further cut down on their ability to get access to these guns, which is why there is mention of the red flag laws. And lastly, we are looking at the recidivism rates in Barbados. 53% of persons who leave the prison return back to the prison, Madam Speaker. And that is why it is necessary that we further invest within the available opportunities that are given to these persons while in prison to help them reintegrate back into society. Madam Speaker, but for now, as I conclude, I want us to really hone in on the point that I'm making. We are birds. We have feathers. But it is not a situation that should be where we tend to create our own flocks. It is important that we become one unit and flock together in order to combat crime and violence within our country. With that, Madam Speaker, I'm a pledge. At this point, Madam Speaker, I would like to put forward a motion that a vote be called in order to pass this resolution on crime and violence.
The question is that the resolution on crime and violence in Barbados be passed in this honorable chamber. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those against, say nay. Nay. It appears as though the ayes have it. The resolution is now. Leader of Opposition Business.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for your recognition. I rise to formally display our gratitude to all who have been involved in this debate. I would first like to thank the government of Barbados for the platform on which we get to speak. I further come down to the committee who has put this all together, and our new senior commissioner as well. I'd also like to thank yourself, Madam Speaker, the judges, and I'd like to thank the government, display our gratitude to the government for taking part in this resolution, and also to my opposition, thank you, to my opposition for actually debating, presenting the facts and the statistics, and further highlighting the leader government business incompetence in telling the truth. But, ma'am, I further would like to thank the general populace of Barbados for their engagement and their constant support of each honorable member in this House. And thank you, ma'am.
Just to note, no reference may be made in debate to the character or conduct of any person, except upon a substantive motion. So.
At this time, Madam Speaker, I would ask that we adjourn this meeting until the next time we meet.
The question is that this honorable House be suspended until further notice. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those against, say nay. It appears the ayes have it. Parliament is now adjourned.
First,